Chapter 14. Penelope sat, sipping a peach martini, her third, while the staff hustled all around her table. She hadn't been back to Atlanta's Food 101 restaurant since graduating college, but it had the merits of terrific food, no loud music, and excellent bartender, and above all else, there was absolutely no connection to her time with Bruce. She had no few fond memories of the place, and the memories were justified. Just since she'd arrived, no fewer than 3 guys, 2 pro hockey players, and a minor league pitcher had hit on her. Once she would have enjoyed their attentions. Now she was impatiently awaiting Andrea's arrival. Andrea, who never came on time unless she happened to be laying on someone's watch during sex.
Did you just make a joke? That was pretty good.
Andrea, who was gorgeous in ways even Penelope could appreciate, since Bruce had never given Andrea a second glance. Yet she was engaged to Bruce's college roommate, Jeff, and still had managed to retain her friendship with Penelope, despite Jeff's requests not to. Penelope was just signaling her buff young waiter Greg to bring another martini when Andrea appeared, striding swift toward her table. Her lean 5'6" frame and dancers, leg with calves pulling tautly as she approached, had heads turning up and down the aisle. When she bent over and kissed Penelope on the cheek, 2 guys nearly fell off their chairs, and another received a vicious, teeth-rattling smack from his female companion. Andrea was breathless, causing her chest to heave enough to seasicken even the mightiest of sailors. "I'm sorry I'm late. We were in a planning meeting this morning when the main server failed, and it's been non-stop phone time with our clients all day." So spoke Ms. Temporary Secretary. Penelope waved over to Greg.
"It's okay. Let's just get you a drink."
Within moments, there were delivered 2 peach martini and a sex on the beach for Andrea. The women sipped and made small talk over a plate of appetizers, though Penelope was itching to get to her main concern. Penelope's simple Caesar salad and Andrea's North Georgia trout had finally arrived when she finally broached the main issue.
"Are you going to tell me, or are we both going to pretend it never happened?"
Andrea said with a sigh. "How about let's do that, Penny? It's done! Terminato! Do we have to go through all the details? The prenup is singed, the rings are exchanged, and the gift checks cashed. Let it go. Let him go!" Penelope shook her head, her ponytail waving behind her, as if to swat a platoon of troublesome flies.
Flying elves are back!
"I need to hear it, Andrea. I need to hear it for myself before I can relegate him to the arms of that woman and move on. Once you tell me about the wedding, I can put Bruce behind me for good."
A small childlike part of her petulantly crossed the dainty fingers of her left hand, where it lay out of sight in her lap. Andrea took a deep breath that nearly shattered the already precarious equilibrium of her blouse's buttons. "All right, if you really need to torture yourself, I will. The ceremony and reception were held at the Archer place." Penelope snorted.
"It was probably as much an exorcism of her husband's spirit as it was a wedding."
Andrea raised her hand with all the authority of a 20-year veteran school crossing guard on a rainy spring afternoon. "If you're going to be like that, I'm not going to continue. Jeff isn't thrilled that you and I are still friends, but out of respect for me, let's just get this over with." Penelope nodded.
"Sorry, go on."
Andrea nibbled as she spoke, covering the initially distasteful taste of the tail with the smoky richness of restaurant's special recipe barbecue sauce. "There were only about 50 guests, mostly on Bruce's side. Callie doesn't have much family, and I guess most of her guests were business associates from Archer's business." Andrea paused for a sip of sex before plunging on with all the subtlety of the neckline of her favorite blouse. "Before you ruin this already awkward story, yes, Callie wore white, and her bouquet was calla lilies. Cute touch, no? That personal assistant of hers, Maud, Millicent, whoever, was the maid of honor. Bruce and Jeff wore gray tuxes with white sneakers.
With matching white tuxes, tennis shoes for attitude, and we leave with 100 ladies!
It was a very simple ceremony, and Bruce's mother cried the whole time.
Hey, she's dead.
Wait a minute.
She died. Wow.
To be honest, I half expected you to jump out of the shrubbery or from a helicopter or something, screaming, "Stop this mockery of a marriage," when the minister asked if anyone knew any reason why these two should not be married. Penelope glowered a bit, but Andrea rushed ahead, having warmed greatly to her tale. Jeff gave a marvelous toast. He told that story about the night Bruce and those basketball players stole all the bread that had been delivered to the college cafeteria, and there was no bread for meals the next day, and how he woke Jeff at 3 a.m. and clobbered him with a loaf of French bread.
Need I say more?
And there was bread all over the floor of their room, and Jeff ended up cleaning it up. But how they've stayed friends ever since. That story still cracks me up. Though I guess it's more touching now that I see what a bonding moment it was for them. Penelope waited while Andrea finished off the last of her ribs. Much as she generally liked Andrea, the girl had a certain flighty, make that air-headed quality to her personality that was scratching at Penelope's nerves like a cat with 7 paws in a sofa factory.
Okay.
Why couldn't she see that Bruce's marriage was not a subject to be taken humorously? Andrea let out a burp, not so manly a belch as to attract undue attention to them, but not so ladylike that 1 or 2 heads did not turn their way again. Wiping her mouth delicately and fiddling about with the few tiny fish bones on her plate, she went blithely on. And their vows were so lovely, Penny, they wrote them themselves. And I never knew a computer geek like Bruce could be so eloquent. Callie went first, and she said the loveliest things about Bruce and them and their relationship. How he had pulled her up from the deepest depths of her mourning and given her reason to rise from her bed in the morning light, and yet still more and greater reason to return to it at nightfall. She swore to love him all the days of her life. Penelope's mind decided this was a fine moment to play heckler to this divine comedy.
Wonderful. She means to outlive this husband too.
Andrea was oblivious to this bleak internal exchange. And Bruce's vows. Oh, Penny, you would have been so proud to hear him say such things. He went on about how Callie was the tech support agent who had taken him off of Musala's hold and brought him through the ultimate upgrade of the operating system of his heart.
Our digital media is right protected. Every file inspected, no viruses detected.
And made his thus far sad and lonely existence 100% compatible with life, the universe, and everything. I was so moved I made Jeff quote every tech specification he could remember when we made love that night. You have no idea how hot that stuff can make a girl. We should try to get you a computer nerd of your own. Penelope barely registered the last of Andrea's tale, as the harsh reality of the situation struck her with all the destructive force of reality. Bruce had no feelings for her. That demanding woman had rebooted his memory, erasing all the good, warm, tender history they'd shared. She was nothing but a part of that sad and lonely existence from which he was fleeing. He felt nothing for the time they'd shared, nothing for all the amazingly raunchy and kinky things she'd allowed him to do to her, or had she do to him, when his internet explorations had introduced him to one of the many particularly exotic forms of foreplay that had kept them abed on many a night, and many a feigned sick day from work. Penelope's vision slowly closed in on her, leaving her finally aware of only 2 things. Andrea licking her lips while describing the decadently delicious German Black Forest wedding cake. The thought,
Why did Henry Archer have to die? Why couldn't it have been Bruce?
With that, she lapsed into unconsciousness, earning a bruise on her forehead from her fork, and a crouton up her nose before Buff Greg carried her to the manager's office and called 911.
Georgia on my mind.
Thanks to Patreon's Break System BSC, Michael Marius, everyone.